developer workshop number who knows what. I've run so many of these at this point, but this one is super exciting because we have a special person from Covalent. I'm not going to reveal who he is. I'll give him some time to introduce yourself. But yeah, for those of you who don't know, I'm Emily. I do DevRel at Linea, and we run kind of weekly workshops to highlight the different tools on Linea specifically because you guys are way more interesting. You're the ones who make dApps robust, give functionality past kind of what Linea does as just a chain, right? Let's go ahead and get started. Guest of the day, please introduce yourself.
Hey, Emily, thanks so much for having me. Hey, everyone. My name is Harish. I look after developer relations at Covalent and super excited to have had the opportunity and the request from Emily to join and talk a little bit about our integration with Linea and also some of the developer tools that we have available. And we'll even showcase a few projects, mostly hackathon projects that we've seen built using our API. So hopefully I'll serve as a source of inspiration for all you builders out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess just to dive immediately in, can you tell us a little bit about, what Covalent is? And then I think specifically today we're talking about the Covalent API, right? So kind of how those pieces fit together, um, what they do.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So the focus for Covalent is really to be the Web3 data hub. And so what that means is if you're a builder looking to access on-chain data, we want to make that as simple as possible for you to be able to pull things like balances, transactions, log events for any custom contract that you might deploy, and do it in a manner that's quite familiar. So we offer REST APIs, pretty simple to integrate with any existing programming framework that you use, and then be able to do that at scale. So we have everyone from small hobbyists to large scale enterprises using our API, and really because we want to make this as simple as possible for developers, the focus has been from the very beginning on this element of a normalized or a unified API. So what that means is if you're pulling data for Linea, but also for ETH mainnet or Polygon or any of the other almost 150 chains that we support, it's a very consistent experience. You really just have to code it once, and you're effectively done. So the response shapes and objects are consistent across every one of our supported chains. Just makes it super easy to integrate as a developer.
Yeah, awesome. Really cool. I'm wondering if you can give us a little bit of insight into how it works. I think especially because you are also supporting over 150 plus chains, there's probably differences that you have to handle with like EVM versus non-EVM compatible um
Hmm. Yeah.
environments or we could just talk about more so the REST API JavaScript layer. Pick your poison.
Yeah, it's a mess, but it's not an easy process. And I'm sure anyone who's dwelled into either doing their own data indexing or trying to run RPC nodes and then fetch data through that source can attest to. On-chain data is inherently messy, and it's part of the beauty of these permissionless systems is anyone's got access to it. They can write any custom contract and deploy it. But if you're an analyst or a developer trying to access this data in sort of a reliable, consistent, and unified manner, it can be a challenge. And so, really, for us, in addition to this element of this unified concept, we're the way the API works is with respect to data pipelines, we take all the source data, we put it into a structured database, and then our API pulls from that structured database. And so you can think of this as having the access to the entire breadth of on-chain data that is indexed in effectively real time, And then you're basically just pulling exactly the data that you want. And then we also have tooling that if you want a custom set of data or something that we don't provide to our existing set of endpoints, you can actually, write your own custom SQL query and be able to access that on-chain data. So trying to give everyone the opportunity to get exactly the data that they want. So that's sort of fundamentally the tooling that we've got, and then predominantly it's the API interface to access the data. We also have a BI type of tool. So this is effectively a write SQL get charts called Increment, and we've got analysts who love using that tool and be able to, in sort of a dynamic fashion, have access to real-time charts and dashboards and all sorts of things. If you've used products like Looker or even Power BI, it's a very similar experience.
Mm, okay. Very cool. This is I guess maybe this is kind of the part where we surface or inspire the Linea devs of the
Mhm.
present and the future and I guess the past, but they're in the present now. um, can
Getting
you
metaphysical really quickly here.
yeah, yeah. Can you highlight some like use cases or like examples of Covalent API out in the wild?
Yeah, and I feel like I'm almost doing a disservice to the small deck that I put together, which is totally fine. I'm happy to just even talk. I almost prefer this versus going through the deck. But high level, I think some of the most common use cases that we see are things like wallet projects are really popular. So Rainbow Wallet probably one of the more popular ones in the ecosystem that's open source. Leverages our API along with I think like 30 plus different wallet projects. We see a lot of traction with digital asset accounting. So this is everything from tax providers to auditors and compliance. And here it's kind of an interesting sort of use case because not only does the data need to be fairly comprehensive, but it needs to be accessible at scale. You could have some clients that have got thousands of wallets spread across who knows how many chains, and to get the complete picture of their Web3 activity can be difficult, without having the right tooling in place. And so, the way we sort of even help facilitate that is we have endpoints that give you a snapshot of all the chains that we support where a wallet's been active. And then from there, you can drill down and focus in on transactions that have taken place on a particular chain if you want to focus there. So digital asset accounting is very much a big prominent use case. And then we see ourselves being one of many tools used in the build. So we've seen really innovative point of sale platforms built. We've seen obviously DeFi and DAO dashboards and marketplaces and galleries for NFTs. Yeah, that's probably just a very quick snapshot. Really, any opportunity to use on-chain data, that's sort of where we fit in pretty well. So token gating, balance sheets, P&Ls, all that kind of stuff are other examples of where we've been utilized.
Okay. Can you maybe like let's dial into like a specific example, right? Let's
Mhm.
point of sale, right? So
Yeah.
point of sale, what information are they grabbing from Covalent to do what?
Yeah, so the most obvious one is before you process a payment, you probably want to check their account balance and make sure they've got the corresponding funds to do it. Maybe there's an element of if there's some sort of credit element tied in there. Maybe you want to assess their assets across a few different chains. Maybe you're even aggregating assets across chain. If you're using USDC, for example, does it really matter if it's a USDC on ETH or Polygon or Linea or wherever? Probably not. You just know that that's the stablecoin that you're using. So being able to even have that snapshot across various chains would be an example of where you would use us. Maybe the receipt is printed up as an NFT. And so then you have the ability to pull our API and then get all the details of that NFT as your digital receipt. And maybe there's a few other custom contract components that you've got for your point of sale platform, and you want to surface some of those log events. Everything from it being maybe a successful transaction, but maybe some loyalty points or some other customizations that you incorporate to really reward the user for leveraging your point of sale. Those are all sort of custom events that you can fetch through our API, for example.
Mm-mm. Okay. So we've kind of taken the IRL, these are
Mhm.
very fleshed out business use cases. You guys have been at a few hackathons. I wonder if you can get some examples of what people have built, in like 2 days, right? For example.
Yeah, for sure. And maybe this is the right point here to share my screen,
Yeah, no,
um,
absolutely.
and we can dive into a few examples. All right, let's get this set up here. So we actually have what we call our hackathon starter kit. Everybody can see this, okay? Emily, you can see this?
Yeah, maybe it'd
Yeah,
be good to what do you call it? Bring yeah. You understood what I meant.
there you
Zoom
go.
in.
Yeah. There we go. So, because we're quite prominent with hackathons, we kind of put this starter kit together, and it's really one place you can go. You can get all the key piece of information on how to get started with our API. So we kind of showcase some of the commonly used endpoints that many of them I mentioned. So if you're fetching token balances or transfers or NFTs, log events, historical token prices, even we've got those endpoints and we've got the details for each one of them in terms of how they're formatted. Mention that we do support a very broad set of chains. And so, really, if you're using any of these endpoints, all you're doing is just changing this chain name parameter. So you can use ETH, you can use Linea, mainnets, testnets, etc. You're just effectively changing that one parameter, and everything else is exactly the same. Let's talk about some of the resources for developers. So, of course, to get started, you'd have to sign up for the API key. It's free to use, and you get a generous number of credits to start with. We've got our API reference, which I'll touch upon in just a second. So, a place where you can see the full catalog of all the endpoints and even use it directly from the browser. We've got a handful of faucets, including Linea. So if you want some test tokens to be able to quickly, try your application across, I think currently we're at maybe 6 or 7 test nets that we supported and are continually increasing that. We've got that. And then we've got our SDKs. So we've got this one for TypeScript. If you want to be able to use a framework that you're comfortable with and just do a simple yarn or npm install, we've got that available for you. We've also got a Postman collection. So if you're just wanting to play around and you're quite familiar with Postman, you can fork that collection and get started. We've actually got templated addresses for contracts and wallets already baked in there. So you just literally need to put in your API key and you can hit run and it will work. In terms of ideas and what we've seen people build, I mean, obviously AI is definitely taken front and center stage with a lot of the submissions that we see. Let me just touch upon a couple of some really cool projects that we saw build and actually win our bounties fairly recently. So account abstraction, again, I think that's another one that's a pretty hot topic in Web3, and we saw this account abstraction wallet being built with AI. Full gambit of everything that you see there. So everything from sort of your Web3 digital assistant. This one's actually really cool. Let me just bring this one up. So Ali AI, where you can basically leverage a set of templates and then do everything from generating mint your NFTs to deploy a custom contract, to check account balances. You can do all of that by simply just typing in the prompt, and it will do it for you. So I think ETH got all these public, so you can actually just go to their latest showcase and check out even the live demo sites. So that was a really cool one that we saw. We've got checkouts and point of sale platforms and stuff that I mentioned, where your receipt is your NFT. Some fantastic games that have been built, and again, every time we see these submissions come through, the quality of them just gets better and better. as I imagine, everything from the Unity toolkit and SDK to other gaming frameworks, you've got just better and better tooling to be able to do this. And then this was the point of sale tool that I mentioned called BasePoint. So they'd kind of built out both a mobile app and the software for their point of sale platform and kind of demoed this in real time. So one of the cool ones that I would recommend you check out, BasePoint did a great job using our API for the things I mentioned before. Block Explorer is another pretty popular one, but again, sort of tying in the AI element where you've got the ability to prompt and ask for all the transactions between two chains, for example, and you will get the full list of all that activity, block by block, transaction by transaction, which is a really cool build. This was L2 Vista that did that. We've got a couple of blogs that we've done just summarizing all the winning submissions and what they've done. So you can just go to covalenthq.com/blog and you can get the details there.
This is super cool, um, and super helpful. Um, do you have a link to this page that I can save
Yeah,
off?
I was actually just trying to figure out how do I actually share this with you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can
Uh,
share it with me on either Telegram or I think this Restream has a private chat as well.
yeah, that's what I just saw here. I'll just do that. And there we go. And then you can make that public.
Okay, cool. So I know let's kind of get into the builder section here. I know you had some slides that I also stepped upon, but if you want to rehash any of it, dive in deeper, feel free.
Yeah,
Um,
just a couple. I mean, again, it's just to add a little bit more context to what I've talked about. So, I mentioned this idea of Covalent being sort of a Web3 data repository, and I just want to give it a visual of how we envision this sort of being built out. So, you've got your series of blockchains. So this is your data source. We like to think of ourselves as the Ethereum Wayback Machine. So if you're familiar with the Internet Wayback Machine, very powerful tool. You can basically take any website, go back, snapshot in time, and then be able to see what it looked like there. And that's really the power of what we're building out here. Where with respect to some of the upcoming proposals that we've seen from the Ethereum Foundation, sort of limiting their scope with the archival and historical data and passing that on to other entities to look after. That's really an area that we see ourselves playing a critical role to have that full archival data from Genesis block that you can access at any given time. And then in terms of how that data gets served up, you mentioned the API. So we've kind of got a few different class of endpoints in terms of how we categorize this. So the class A are kind of the consistent endpoints across every chain. So this is your bread and butter, balances, transactions, log events, NFT data, etc. And then we've got things like protocol specific endpoints. So for Uniswap, Sushi Swap, some of the big dexes. And then the class C is really exciting because this is sort of our API marketplace where anybody who's inclined to write some custom SQL can actually create their own endpoint that can be used by the public. So we've actually built out that tooling. We've tested internally. We built out some endpoints internally, and now we're slowly releasing this out to the community to leverage, which is going to be really cool to see what they built. And then on top of that, we've got that BI layer I mentioned called increment. And, all of this, again, just data that feeds all sorts of various applications. And this is where, the power to the builder is to focus on, that and to building out their use case, proof of concepts, MVPs, early stage product to test product market fit. Those are all areas that we want to support, and I'll kind of mention how we do that with some incentives. But in a snapshot, this is exactly what Covalent, the Covalent network, is really all about. I mentioned the data products, some of the resources. We talked about some of the use cases. And so just quickly to map, for example, if I wanted to build a portfolio tracker, and I'll also share the link to this deck, anybody can go through it. This just kind of maps the endpoint to actually building out the interface, something like a Zapper, which I know is a pretty popular portfolio tracker. And so you can kind of see how you get certain data presented in sort of a very similar format that some of these portfolio trackers do. Same thing with building a wallet. We've mapped out the endpoint to the actual, view that you see in, popular wallets across the board. I think this one is the Coinbase wallet. NFT galleries, same sort of thing. So all the data that's on chain, we have it available. And if it's not accessible through an API, you can either build your own custom endpoint, or you can even tell us that this is what you want. And then we've got a process in place to actually add that functionality to an existing endpoint, or build a new one. Then we went through a couple of project examples. I just want to point this one out. So we do have grants available for folks who are building, their prototypes through a hackathon, and really we want to be able to support those projects through that next phase of building. So for anyone building in the Linea ecosystem, we've got up to 25,000 incentives available, and I'll share the link to the grants page. But really exciting to see. We've already had several projects submit their application, and some really exciting stuff coming down the line. And I know in the Linea community, there's no shortage of great builders. So we'd love to see you guys apply for the grant, and then see how you guys build from the crazy and wonderful ideas that you've got.
Very cool. Yes, yeah, I think it's super important that you guys have a grant. If you guys want to do the whole Linea Covalent powerhouse thing, I believe Linea also has like a VC investment alliance specifically
Mm,
interested in Linea projects. So I guess like a double hitter, um, in
let's
a
do it.
sense. Yes. Okay.
Absolutely.
So if you have links that you can send over to me, um, some people, I guess, can also take a screenshot of this.
Yeah, by
Not
by
the
by
most.
all means.
Oh, and the
And
the docs as well.
yeah, that one is just covalenthq.com/doc. So that one's pretty easy to remember. And let me just chat this to you. So from that hackathon starter kit, the links to everything we've talked about is
Mm,
actually there.
okay, awesome.
So you'll have all the links that we just talked about. Yeah, I think that was basically in terms of content what I wanted to cover, but would love to open it up for questions, and yeah, and answer anything that the community might be wondering, or wanting to learn a little bit more about with respect to Covalent and Linea.
Yeah, so we have this question right here. Do you index the Ethereum consensus layer and make it available over the unified API?
Great question, Ralph. So not yet. It's something we've talked about, and yeah, I think the focus for us has been on indexing, primarily EVM compatible chains where they can fit within the structure of our unified schema. But I know this question's come up a few times, and I know we're actively looking at the consensus layer as well. So um, yeah, I would say it's on the roadmap, but I haven't got a date for when it would actually be available.
Okay, cool. There's this question right here. I'm actually not sure what EOS stands for. I have a lip balm that's EOS. Maybe that's what's messing with my.
That's got to be it. So I think you're referring to the yeah, I think EOS is just a maybe one of the earlier chains, if I remember correctly, from like 2017, 2018. So if it is an EVM compatible chain, or there's elements of it that are EVM compatible, that's sort of our first litmus test that we take to assess if it's going to be something we can index. And then just prioritizing that with our other list of chains. So the two that we don't, or the two chains that aren't EVMs that we support. So we do support Bitcoin if you want to get balance and transactions, and we also have all Solana balances, including their NFTs. So those are the two non EVMs that we currently support. But since then, the majority have been, well, not majority, all of them have been EVM compatible. And again, that's to make it as simple as possible for developers to use this sort of unified interface to access data across a broad spectrum of chains.
Very cool. I did not know there were 100, I guess 48
I didn't know either,
compatible chains.
but you know
That's
what's
crazy.
interesting. What's interesting is there's talk about we do believe in this multi-chain future, and so I think we're definitely positioned ourselves to sort of leverage that philosophy and provide support accordingly. Many of these chains they can be experimental or obviously application specific chains. These app chains that are also included in this list. So it's going to be interesting to see how the next few years roll out. I mean, L2s are obviously the scaling solution that I think everyone's looking at right now, and there's a ton of momentum there. Zk, I'm Canadian, so I keep saying ZK. So ZK Sync, that's obviously a key technology that's also being leveraged, and seeing growth in that as part of a scaling solution for Ethereum. So it'll be interesting to see how the future pans out. I suspect some of these chains, they'll be very focused on specific applications, some of them more broader ecosystems, some of them for Ethereum scaling. So when you factor that all in, there's just actually a lot of ecosystems that are out there. And for us, the cost and the effort to index is gradually getting smaller and smaller. So for us, it's like, okay, well, we'll help bootstrap an ecosystem and provide a way for developers to access that on-chain data. And if things work, great, and we want to be part of that growth. If not, and you guys decide to retool, not talking about Linear, I'm talking about like maybe other chains, if they decide to refocus, we're happy to work with them and continue to provide some sort of indexing service.
Very cool. So I guess just to rehash, if developers were wanting to leverage all the different chains through the Covalent API, it's as simple as just swapping out. I think there was just like a
Exactly.
Linea, ETH mainnet, whatever. That's the only
It's
overhead that they
designed
have.
with basically one parameter. So we try to go with that long tail of chain support, but come and build for any one of the supported chains, including Linea and ETH mainnet, for example.
Okay. Very cool. I don't know if we have any more questions. Thank you so much for joining. There's usually a latency of 5 seconds, so I will give 5 seconds for the audience to speak now or ask questions later if they have them, if they're not live. But yeah. Oh, I guess last piece, is there any way for people to get in contact, learn more? If there's anything else you want to announce, you have a platform here. Otherwise, happy to close it off.
Yeah. So I mean, in terms of connecting with myself or Covalent, I guess officially we got to say X now. Is that how this is done? So we're all available on X. I'm at Harish underscore YVR, and then Covalent HQ. Covalent underscore HQ is our handle, and a lot of the announcements, as with most projects in the crypto space, are done there. But we're also active on, LinkedIn, Telegram, a couple other, and Discord, of course. We have a pretty sizable community on Discord, and a lot of the questions that we answer for developers are done through there. So definitely encourage you to join us on Discord if you've got questions about the API and integrating it and getting any support there. Yeah, and then I think we talked about most of the resources, and we love the Linea community. You guys have bootstrapped the project in a pretty incredible fashion, so it's awesome to see the growth, the enthusiasm, and just the creativity of this community.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Oh, I have one last question. Is the YVR for the Vancouver? You have a
Yeah.
lot of Canadian pride.
Yeah, well, I guess I don't know. I'm not sure if in India my name is like Joe or something, but I went with that just to distinguish the name a little bit.
I see.
But it's also reflective of maybe the time when I was a part of Twitter and everybody was doing that, and I haven't bothered really changing that. So maybe I should,
Oh,
but
I see. Okay. You know a lot more about the history than I do.
mm,
I did not get into Twitter that early. But okay,
yeah.
yes, cool. Thank you so much. I'm gonna count down from 5 and then we'll wave the people goodbye and I'll click end stream. So 5,
Mm.
4, 3, 2, 1. Now
Nice
we
to meet
will
you all.
wave.
Thank